Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody, and welcome to Pangolin, the conservation podcast. The show dedicated to exploring and amplifying the world's underappreciated conservation stories. The stories that inspire me, and I hope will inspire you too. I'm your host, Jack Baker, and today we are celebrating something very exciting, which is the second ever International Chameleon Day. Some of you may remember that last year we did an episode, funnily enough, about this time last year, all about the wonderful, amazing, brilliant world of chameleons. And here to give us an update on everything that's been going on is a familiar face to the podcast, one of the organisers and coordinators of International Chameleon Day, and the Chief Conservation Officer from Wildlife Madagascar, the absolutely wonderful Tim Eppley. So thank you so much for joining me today, Tim. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. I think it's like one of those things that as soon as we did the episode last year, I very rarely I'm often accused of having a mammal bias, which I know working for Wildlife Madagascar, you deal with a lot of lemurs. So there is maybe you get the same thing. But I knew so having the chameleon chat, I was like, perfect, this is amazing. And since then, I think last year's Chameleon Day inspired a change because since then we've done a lot more on invertebrates and birds and all sorts of things to get away from the mammals. So I'm excited to see and be back at the reptiles again.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's one of those things. I've been going to Madagascar for nearly 20 years now, and everybody asks about lemurs, and most of our research is about lemurs. But one of the things I've noticed is that when tourists come to Madagascar, what's one of the species that they talk about lemurs when they come back home, but one of the species that they always walk away, really just enamored with are chameleons, because they're so cool, they're so different, and I think it's just they're awesome. So I'm glad that more people are getting interested in them, and that you've been able to focus more episodes on these ectotherms and other lesser appreciated animals compared to the mammals.
Yes, yeah, which is the whole point. The whole point of the show. So I think it's helped fulfill the prophecy in the name of the show, which is fantastic. And I guess we did a little intro there, a little tease as to the exciting world of chameleons. But before we do that, in case somebody hasn't listened to your last episode, doesn't know who you are, doesn't know what you do you want to give just a brief introduction as to who you are, what it is you work on, and just introduce yourself to the listeners?
Sure. So, my name is Dr. Tim Eppley. I am the Chief Conservation Officer for Wildlife Madagascar. I have been with Wildlife Madagascar for about 2 years now. And we work at a few different field sites in Madagascar, where we have field stations, and we work with local land managers and local communities, both on wildlife research and biodiversity protection, but also with local communities in terms of enhancing their agriculture and finding solutions to increasing food security. And then, as an additional point, we work on ecotourism development so that we can actually bring long-lasting sustainability to some of these communities that live around protected areas. And then prior to working with Wildlife Madagascar, I worked for several years with San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, where I led our in situ lemur conservation program in Madagascar. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So the world has always revolved around these kind of amazing, bizarre creatures. Yeah.
Yeah. I've, my career is always focused on primates. I did work for some time with bonobos in the DRC, and I worked with chimpanzees in professionally managed care. But lemurs have always been kind of my first love, and I just kept coming back to Madagascar, and now I doubt that I can ever get away from it.
Yeah, especially when not only does it have the amazing world of lemurs, which I'm sure there will be. If you haven't heard any of them, listeners, we have many episodes now about lemurs because I think every year we've done a World Lemur Day episode, so you can go back and learn more about them. But to keep us back on kind of as on topic as we can, I guess that work with Madagascar and these kind of communities and things is where you kind of first got introduced to the chameleon, and I wondered actually, like, something I'd be interested to know is like, where did that kind of relationship with you start, and where did this kind of like idea for an International Chameleon Day come from?
Oof. Well, those are two different things.
Uh
So
huh.
when I was doing my master's research, that was kind of my first. That was the second time I'd been to Madagascar, and so during my master's research, that would have been back in 2008. I was living in a forest in the southeast, and um, yeah, we would see. I would see Furcifer major and some larger chameleons throughout the day as I was following bamboo lemurs, and I just thought they were so cool. Just such an amazing creature, and so in the coming years, when I was working on my PhD, and soon after, just started recognizing more and more species in these areas, and just trying to developing a love for these underappreciated animals, and recognizing that there was this incredible diversity in Madagascar. I really didn't know much about chameleons at all, and then started looking into it, and it's like, oh, Madagascar has nearly half of the world's chameleon diversity, species diversity, just there. And so every forest, every area that you go to in Madagascar, there's a chance to see at least one or two chameleon species, if not many, many more, just in that one area. Even in the cities, you can be in the capital of Antananarivo and see an Austerlitz chameleon or a Furcifer lateralis. They are there. You can see them walking across the road, and people just kind of ignore them in the cities, and so it's just fascinating. Now, International Chameleon Day came about in not just because I, was fascinated with them, but we had recognized how incredibly successful World Lemur Day had been. And World Lemur Day, as you've celebrated here on the podcast, is in late October every year. And it was started, I think the first year was maybe like 2014 or 2015, around then. And since then, it really took off, and communities really love it. The Malagasy government really embraces it, and they put on these large events. And the Malagasy people are very proud of that natural heritage. And so, with all of those events going on, and the communities really rallying behind lemur diversity and lemur conservation because of World Lemur Day, we thought, well, what's another taxonomic group that we could create an animal appreciation day for, that would really inspire Malagasy, the Malagasy communities and Malagasy people. And knowing that chameleons were so diverse, they're found throughout the island, and Madagascar itself has around 50% of the chameleon species diversity in the world. It just seemed like the completely appropriate group to focus on, and so that's why we created International Chameleon Day, was to create another day for Malagasy people to really appreciate something special about their natural heritage. Now, that doesn't mean that other countries aren't celebrating this day. Chameleons are found throughout mainland Africa, Southern Europe, the Middle East, Western India. And so we also work with partners in those areas, and they put on celebrations as well. And so all of the materials that we've produced try to be as general. We do include some things specific to Madagascar, but we try to create materials that are applicable to all areas that host chameleon species. And so we hope that those International Chameleon Day materials are used in these other countries as well, not just in Madagascar.
Yeah, and I think the magic of that, right, is that chameleons, while underappreciated in the sense that not, I think as we established last year's episode, they are incredibly bizarre, wonderful, like underappreciated in the sense that they are so unique and special. But they also have that kind of dual thing, right, where they're underappreciated, but they have this universal appeal that when you learn about them and you see them and you get to know them, they're so lovable and they're so charismatic. So I can see how even if you don't exist right within the range of the chameleon, it's such an appealing day, right? It's such an appealing thing to start to learn about. And it's such a thing that once you start unpicking all of the little threads about them, you start to go, this is a really complicated, wonderful, incredible, bizarre creature. So I can see, yeah, I can see exactly where the thought process might have gone with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much going on with
Mm-hmm.
them. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you stop and just watch, and it's so unlike other lizards, with their eyes moving independently, and they have these, weird feet, and they're slow moving, but then they have that projectile tongue, and this, some of them have a prehensile tail. Some the Brochysia, the leaf chameleons, will sometimes use that tail as kind of a fifth leg, to help move them along. And so it's just, yeah, they're so remarkable, so weird and bizarre, and yeah, anybody that stops to watch them just becomes completely entranced with just, oh, what's it going to do next? Is it going to go after that bug? Or it's just, yeah, they're great. They're really cool to watch. And I love being at our field sites in Madagascar. And yeah, I may be there to be working with students that are following lemurs and or maybe collecting botanical data. But when we come across a chameleon, everybody instantly just their focus is on that chameleon and seeing what cool thing it's going to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Is there any moment where you have been watching one and you've gone, I, even as the like chief conservation officer of this organization, did not expect it to do that? Like, has there ever been one of those moments of like, wow, that's just one of
Um,
the most incredible or beautiful things?
I did have a weird observation several years ago when I was working in Mashwal National Park for San Diego Zoo, and there was a female around the field station that we had there. There was a female panther chameleon that was excavating a hole in order to lay her eggs, and she was excavating this hole, but there were other eggs already there. And she moved all of those eggs out of the hole. She deposited her own eggs, and then she moved those eggs that she had excavated back on top, and then covered the whole thing and left. And this whole process took like, you know, two to 3 hours or so that I just sat there watching it. And she was this, very dark purplish color as she was doing it, and it was really crazy. I don't know if that was, if those eggs were hers, those previous ones that she excavated were part of a clutch that she had previously laid. But the fact that she removed those, potentially with this understanding that they would hatch first, and so hiding hers underneath those, maybe there was an anti-predator uh, purpose for that. I don't know. We put out a few different. I published the observation because it was just so bizarre, and we put a few different um, you know hypotheses as to why that potentially occurred, but just incredibly weird situation. So we need more people really conducting, behavioral studies and behavioral ecology studies on chameleons, because there's a lot of interesting things that are probably happening that we haven't yet observed or haven't been written about. Just these unique situations. And so at the moment, most herp research and chameleon research in general is just focused on species inventories, and, distribution, densities, abundance. So really critical information to know, especially for conservation. But there's obviously a whole other world of research that needs to be explored, and this just these interesting behaviors with them, and that incredible diversity of species. I mean, there's sometimes 8 to 10 species of chameleon that are living within one forest, and surely they have their own ecological niches and their specific areas, just like the lemurs do, and how they separate themselves. And so I think it's one of these underrepresented areas in behavioral research that really needs to be expanded upon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can see exactly why when like you have behaviors like that are like captivating, interesting, bizarre on every level. They are like they're interesting for scientific purposes, for conservation purposes, but also for like engaging the public purposes. Because you tell, I guarantee every listener at home is sat there now and will be thinking about for a long time, why did she move those eggs? Why would that have happened? Why? And they'll probably like I will go through all of those different options again and again and again and just be amazed and wonder forever probably until the researcher comes along who can finally get the exact reason, which we will probably never know. But that's fantastic. I wonder, like, I guess, like you were saying, there's more research needs done. I guess before we talk about some of the celebration and what's going on maybe this year for International Chameleon Day, has there been any kind of updates or fun bits of research, interesting bits of research that have happened in the last year that you're kind of like excited by, things that you'd like to share, updates about kind of, yeah, what's been going on in the world of chameleons?
So, I mean, I'm not really the best person to ask this question to. I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
herpetologist. I love herps, but I'm not a herpetologist. So, for our organization, we have over the last 4 months, we've been conducting herp surveys with a special focus on chameleons. So, at one of our sites, the La Mananara site, which is in the Central Highlands, it's a rainforest in Madagascar. We've been conducting microhabitat preference studies and distribution studies of the globe horned chameleon, which is an endangered species that's really remarkable. I had always assumed all of the individuals I'd ever seen up until I want to say February. Up until February, all the individuals I'd ever seen were just kind of like a green color or kind of like a brownish green color. Um, and then I was there at the site, and all of a sudden they were a variety of colors. Like I was finding individuals that were bright chartreuse, and another one that was turquoise and green, and like just this incredible diversity. And it likely had something to do with breeding season, and it was probably just the males that were those remarkable colors. So it was just fascinating. But I had never seen that reflected in any of the literature, and so it was, yeah, it was completely new to me. And so hope we're collecting data now on that coloration patterning, and hopefully we'll know more about it. This is a really endangered species, and so it only exists in a few little areas, and so that'll be interesting. We've also been conducting some surveys at our Namaruka site over in the northwest, which is a understudied area. We started our herp surveys there with a focus on the Namaruka leaf chameleon, Bruchesia banzai, which is a critically endangered species that's only known from there. But what we've been finding as we've conducted our surveys is that not only is there the Namaruka leaf chameleon, but there's also another leaf chameleon called Bruchesia burgoi, which is at that site. So they live sympatrically. And then there's a third Bruchesia species that is part of like the pygmy leaf chameleon species, which, as far as I know, this is going to, it's a new species. It had never been recognized before. So it's going to be something new to science. We just need to, we have specimens, and we'll work with a team to analyze the genetics and, make this fit into the phylogeny and understand where it fits with the rest of these pygmy leaf chameleons. But this, as far as I know, is the most western and southern site for that specific grouping, that specific taxonomic group of these Bruchesia, these pygmy leaf chameleons. So that's new. I don't know if I should even mention that yet, since we haven't analyzed the data. It's just that we've recognized that this species is there, and so yeah, that's really cool. But I know that there's a lot of other really cool research going on. I just don't know the specifics. Chris Anderson, who's the chair for the IUCN Chameleon Specialist Group, always has some really cool research going on in South Africa. So I'm sure there's a lot of other cool stuff going on. The Kaluma Tarzan. There's a Madagascar. There's a Malagasy NGO called Madagascar Avokaji that's been working with that, and I believe over the last year they've identified several new sites where that species is present. So that's been a pretty big finding, because it was previously only known from 2 or 3 sites, and now I think there's upwards of 12 or 13. I'm not sure of the specific number, but it's definitely been a pretty large range extension for this critically endangered species, which is pretty cool.
Hmm. Yeah, I like how you said, oh, I don't know, but then you've listed three very very interesting things, very very interesting, and I think like the even like when you were talking about the first one as well, I think that's what it really touched on. What I really love, I think about chameleons is that my favorite plant is the jade vine because the way that it looks, the color of the jade vine, it looks otherworldly. Like from someone who's grown up in Scotland, where all of the plants are green and like there's the flowers are maybe yellow or red, or they have this kind of like they're pretty standard kind of colors, and then you see something like the jade vine and it's just this otherworldly. I always think it looks like something out of Avatar or one of these films.
Yeah.
I really love it because of that. And then the chameleons, I think, have that same trait, right? Of like the colors and the ways that they move and the things that they do. And like, well, really, especially the colors, I think is something that just appeals to me. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I think, and you talking about like the way that, yeah, they can be expected to be one set of things. And then you appear somewhere and they are this like turquoise or they're these things that you would never have expected to see is just incredible. Really, really
Right. Yeah.
interesting.
There are. Again,
Hmm.
I'm not a herpetologist, but there are definitely certain regions and certain areas where we see this remarkable coloration diversity for certain species. I think panther chameleon is probably the most well known. They're heavily bred in captivity and within the pet trade, but in the wild, in the east, you like around Mashwal and Makira, the northeast of Madagascar, these species, the males are usually a green. They go from being a kind of a drab green to a brighter green, and then you get to this area, this region called Bilu Bay, and they're this bright orange and reddish color and just remarkable, completely different from what you see in the northeast. And then you go a little bit further northwest, and they are all of a sudden turquoise and bright blue, and just that diversity is just absolutely incredible. Why, I have no idea where that comes about. It is the same species at all of those in that entire range, but yeah, it's one of those things, and that's probably why it's so popular within the pet trade, because of that remarkable coloration. And so a lot of people are very familiar with the Ambilu Bay reds, or oranges, whatever color it comes out. I've seen both colorations within Ambilu Bay when I've been there. So
Hmm.
uh,
Oh, no, that's amazing. That is like, yeah, that is really really amazing. And like, I mean, I'm already feeling inspired, intrigued, interested. Like, I have 100 more questions, but I feel like telling these stories is one thing. Getting people intrigued is like one thing. But actually knowing what's going on to support like what is going on to celebrate these amazing things, right? We're intrigued by them, we're amazed by them, but what are you guys kind of doing this year on International Chameleon Day to kind of celebrate them, raise awareness of them? Yeah, what is the kind of plan for the day? I'm going to release, so for anyone listening, it's not quite International Chameleon Day yet if you're listening to this on day of release. It is International Chameleon Day on May 9th, I believe. Am I right? Yes.
correct.
May 9th, which is the Friday of this week. So if we're kind of sat now, a couple days before International Chameleon Day, what should people be looking forward to? Like, what should they be kind of expecting? What's going on?
Well, for us, for our organization, Wildlife Madagascar, we're just holding small events basically within each of the communities where we work. These are community-based events. Kids will be doing a lot of educational activities, maybe putting together a small play or skit. Little competitions here and there. So more community-based things, and just raising awareness within those communities about chameleons. Some Malagasy communities just ignore chameleons. Some really love them. Others have a fadi, or a taboo, a cultural taboo against them. And so, in all the areas where we work currently, people just kind of ignore them. They don't really mind them. So we're just raising awareness of how important they can be for the ecosystem, and what cool species they are, and how wonderful it is, how amazing it is that Madagascar holds that high species richness and that high diversity of these species. And so something to make the Malagasy people really proud of that natural heritage for them. Now, this is only the second International Chameleon Day. And so we're still just trying to raise awareness about the day, to make sure that word is getting out and people are posting about chameleons. On that day, on our website, we have an International Chameleon Day webpage on the wildlifemadagascar.org website, where you can find general information. We have a lot of fun infographics that you can download and post. We have an official logo for the day. We have a lot of cool photos as well that you can download and use on social media. In addition, we've created several activity packets, general information guides, fact sheets. We have a primary curriculum and a secondary level curriculum. All of these are PDF packets that are free to download. They're available in English, French, and Malagasy. So we encourage people that are, if you're a school teacher or you work in a zoo or maybe at a nature center, download some of these packets and present them to kids or to any visitors that you have coming in on May 9th, or maybe before or after. Use them whenever. It's just really about getting the word out there, about spreading the love for chameleons. And if you do post on social media, which I encourage everyone to do, please use some general hashtag. I think we've listed a few hashtags on our website, like maybe um, uh, just hashtag International Chameleon Day, or I think we had one, show your colors, or something like that. But use something like that so we can track it and so we can see the love for chameleons kind of growing. So last year we had, I think, hundreds of posts that were using those hashtags. And so this year we're hoping to see even more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep. And you've definitely, like, even before you've gotten to the packs that are online, even before you've posted, you're equipped from this podcast of at least a couple of fun little facts that you can use to drop into conversation, that you can speak to people, tell people about things, like, yeah, spread the word. Especially if you're listening to this on day of release, you've got a couple days notice. You've got no excuse not to kind of prepare a post or start rallying your friends, or go, like, question, like, send it to your local zoo, or send it to someone who's like, oh, who could host an event for you, or a school teacher, or someone who might be looking for resources. Go, go, go. Because, yeah, as we have established, chameleons are amazing, but they need, yeah, our love, support, all of these things. No, that's fantastic. And I really love that kind of dual approach, right? Of, like, internal kind of working with communities, but externally, yeah, just getting that awareness out there. Because, yeah, I think, yeah, it's so important that people just have these things put in front of them, because if they're not right there, often they get forgotten about, right? And so it's really important that, yeah, these amazing things get kind of brought up every year and kind of reminded. Everyone goes, oh yeah, it's one of these things that, yeah, one of these creatures that we shouldn't forget about, because they're amazing and they're important and they're
Yeah.
just wonderful.
And I mean, there's a lot of animal appreciation days. You look through those sort of calendars, and it's like every other day is, a specific, um, you know, a specific animal. And so, when we were creating this day, we didn't want to be tied to just a singular animal, but we wanted to have that diversity, that, a larger taxonomic group that could really be appreciated, that was underrepresented. And so that's why we went with all chameleons rather than, like, specifically, Panther Chameleon Day or Parsons Chameleon Day. We wanted to have that diversity so that there could be a lot of information shared. And if people are posting photos, it's not just of a singular chameleon, but it's just this whole array of colors and sizes and cool features. Like the Jackson's chameleon that has the three horns coming off of it. Just a lot of really cool stuff that people can post about and keep people interested in
Yes.
chameleons.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I would recommend, even just going and scrolling through that hashtag and looking for things, because, yeah, it's one of those groups of, like, when you, like lemurs, right, where you start looking and you realize, hang on, as you look through all the pictures, they look entirely different. They act in very bizarre, unique ways, and you'll just see it won't be like you're looking at 100 photos of animals that all look incredibly similar. They are like there will be some diversity, I imagine, even in the posts. It'll be interesting to see. You'll be able to see which ones people are probably liking the most, and which species, perhaps, which of them you're kind of like, oh, hang on, these things are like some of them are maybe not getting as much attention that you can focus on next year. I guess, like,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people really focus on those that are more colorful,
yeah.
like the jeweled chameleon or the carpet chameleons have a lot of coloration. Panther chameleons have a lot of coloration. And yeah, the I think the Trioceros, the Jackson's chameleon, and the Cameroon sailfin chameleon, they have these cool, um, horns on them or appendages that just on their facial, uh, structure. It's just, yeah, some really cool stuff that people just, when they see them, they're like, oh, that's amazing. I got to look up more photos of it. And so I think those usually get the most love when they're shared. But there are some, simple brown little leaf chameleons. They need some love too. They're also really cool. They kind of look like little dinosaurs. A lot of them have little spikes coming off their spine and maybe on their head. They have these little spikes, and so they can look really cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that leads nicely actually into a question I was going to ask you, right? Of like, so at the end of every episode, I always ask three kind of similar, kind of quick fire questions to my guests. And I guess the first one is always, how can people be involved? And we've kind of touched on that a little bit already. The second one is, what, like, if you could pick any underappreciated creature, what would it be? And I guess, like, to reframe it for International Chameleon Day, is there a chameleon that you're like, yeah, these ones get all the attention, but this is my favorite. This is the one that people should be looking at.
Well, so for what can people do?
Okay.
I would say really just post about chameleons.
Mm-hmm.
Spread the word, about International Chameleon Day, and
Yeah.
talk about how cool chameleons are. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very simple task, very
Yep.
simple ask. Um, uh, yeah, if they are within the pet trade. So, I mean, if you are somebody that is that has pets and keeps herps, snakes and lizards and whatnot, I would ask that you do your due diligence when you are obtaining an animal. Make sure that it's coming from a reputable breeder. It's not coming from the wild, and make sure that you're taking proper care of these animals. Chameleons can be um, very difficult to keep in captivity, and so you want to make sure that you have you're taking the proper care of it and providing it with everything that it needs. I think there's a great organization called Chameleon Academy that has been working on making sure that those that keep chameleons are doing it properly, and so they've done a really great job. So just a shout out to them. They helped to raise some funds for a campaign, a poster campaign that we have in Madagascar right now to help eradicate Desmodium, which is a silverleaf Desmodium is an invasive plant species that actually can kill chameleons. It has these hook-like hairs along the stem, and it's invasive, so it just takes over these very large open canopy areas. And then when chameleons go to sit on a branch, they just get caught. They get stuck in these hair-like tangles, and they, being unable to get out, they then desiccate. They die because they can't get food, they can't get water, and so we created a poster with the funding that was provided by Chameleon Academy to tell local people about this problem and to have them remove it. And so we were able to get the support of Madagascar's Ministry of the Environment and Sustainable Development, Madagascar National Parks, and dozens of other NGOs that are based in Madagascar to try and eradicate this invasive species, to benefit chameleons, to benefit reforestation efforts, because this plant can often inhibit those reforestation efforts, and just help wildlife in general.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
No,
Um,
That's really interesting. Before we get, I'm now gonna have to stop and be like, that's incredible. And like before we move on to like talking about I'm gonna I know I was like I'm the one who pushed the conversation forward, but I'm gonna pause this again and just ask because like I'll put links to everything in the description of all the resources we've talked about. And I know that like if there's is there like a if people are thinking, oh, like, yeah, is there a donation link or a organization that you would push them towards as in that kind of respect as well?
So they, they approached us about
Ah,
this problem, and with this invasive plant, and it is definitely a problem. And I got in touch with a few NGOs that have very large reforestation programs as well, and they were saying, "Oh, this is just a horrific plant. It's horrible. It takes forever to get rid of on our own, and like it kills small wildlife. There's even stories of like a mouse lemur getting caught in it, so it's not just limited to chameleons and lizards and frogs, but other small mammals are getting entangled in this. And so they brought this to our attention, and set up a GoFundMe page to help support the poster campaign, which we're rolling out this week, and making sure that we get these posters distributed all through Eastern Madagascar. So that's been awesome. You can also directly support us, Wildlife Madagascar, through our website. We have, uh, you know, you can become an annual member or a monthly member and help support our mission, and all of our staff and the projects that we have going on at our various sites, which include reforestation, wildlife research, food security, with local communities. So a number of different topics, basically. And we have all Malagasy staff as well. So any donation that is given to us goes directly to on the ground conservation,
mhm.
and goes to support the Malagasy team.
No, that's fantastic, and that's yeah, that's really interesting. I'll add more links and everything. Basically, anything we've mentioned will be in the description of this episode. So for anybody who's interested about any of the things, I will put them down there. And yeah, web pages and donation-y places and all these sorts of things will be there and ready to go. Because yeah, that's really interesting, and I think it's a very interesting story, right? Because I think when people think about invasive species, when it's an animal, they think, oh, of course, animals will eat each other, animals will do this. And when it's plants, I guess like a lot of the time people think of plants as a threat to other plants, especially these ones that grow and tangle around larger trees or around these things that just they drown out the sunlight or they kind of outgrow kind of local species. So that's actually a really interesting and a really important story to highlight, I think, in something that might reframe invasive plant species to quite a lot of people in terms of the way that they think about them. So that's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah. So it's
Um,
not just, yeah. I mean, it definitely
yeah.
outcompetes the local native plants, but
hmm
yeah, also is entrapping that local wildlife and harming it and killing some of it. So
That's
yeah,
yeah.
huge problem.
Yeah, that's really, yeah, really, hopefully interesting and inspiring to people to take action against those things because that's, yeah, really important.
And
Um,
the other thing too, that
mhm,
plant, silverleaf desmodium, and probably other desmodium species, it's invasive in Madagascar. I suspect it's probably invasive in many parts throughout Africa and other areas. And so, we made the poster, and we're going to have it on our International Chameleon Day page within the next few days. Well, we made the poster in Malagasy. We're also make it available in English. And if there are any other countries where people know of this being a problem, and there may be NGOs that want to use this poster, you can reach out to us and maybe help us translate it into that local language, and we can make it available to you that way. Because we really want to get this out there, and make people, these local communities, aware, and spread the word so that this doesn't grow into a bigger problem, which in some areas, at least in Madagascar, it is becoming.
That's yeah, that's really interesting. And I'm yeah, I often work in a botanic garden, and I'm already thinking of 3 or 4 people where I'm like, I'm going to want to ask them questions about this because I know they work in Madagascar, and so I wonder if they've ever encountered it. So I'm kind of yeah, I want to go and Yeah, and I'll point them in the direction of the resource because I'll go, oh, if you work there, and this is a like, if you like, is this something that could be useful for you? Because that's really really interesting. I guess then back, we took the long way round, but we're back to it. I'm going to ask again because you've had time to think about it now. We've kind of talked about we've talked about how people can be involved. What is the kind of, for you, what is your, I'm usually underappreciated, the question is underappreciated creature, but like, we're going to go, what is your favorite chameleon? What's your favorite underappreciated chameleon?
That's such a tough question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably say, oof, there's so many cool chameleons. Yeah. I mean, I really love Panther chameleons because of that incredible color diversity, but they are so popular and people know a lot about them, and they're really uh, well represented in zoos and within the pet trade. So I feel like I can't go with that. And so maybe I'll go with the globe horned chameleon because very little is known about it. It is an endangered species. I don't believe it's traded. I don't believe it's within any of the pet trade. So you probably can't see it at a zoo. But um, at one of our sites, we have this uh, a high abundance of them, a high density of this species, and so we really think of ourselves as safeguarding, this population. And again, those colorations that we see, at least within the males of that species, are just absolutely remarkable. And so I'd love to find out more about it, and we're going to have team members conducting longer behavioral follows of these animals over the coming year, and hopefully we'll be able to shed some light um, on what's going on there, like why they are this diversity of colors, and how does this link up with breeding seasons and everything else. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'll go with the globe horned chameleon.
I think that's a good choice. And while you were talking there, I want to clarify that I was not being rude in texting. I was looking up a picture of it on my phone, because I was like, I'm now intrigued to see what this amazing animal looks like.
I have
And
no idea what pictures are available online.
yeah,
I think we may have posted some on our social media channels. Um, you
mhm.
can follow Wildlife Madagascar on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, and I think we've posted about globe horned chameleons. But I can also make some available to you. Maybe you can include them in a, a link, or you know.
Yeah, in one of the posts, because the most, and because the main thing, the first thing that comes up when you search for them, of course, is the most reliable source, which is Wikipedia. Obviously, where we should get all of our information from, and even Wikipedia has no information at all. It just basically has a picture, and that's a globe horned chameleon. Um, and yeah, that is about, and yeah, that's about it. So yes, any pictures or things you have to spread the word further than that really in-depth, high-quality scientific article.
But
Uh,
that's but yeah, so I just looked it up as well, and so you look at these images through Google, and yeah, there's some diversity there, but they're mostly just green. And so they're the ones that we have seen, that we've been observing, just look so different. And so maybe this is something new, maybe it's not, I don't know. But yeah, we definitely need to expand this research to understand if this is just a seasonal color change that we're seeing related to breeding. Um, but super cool species, underappreciated, very little known. Not many people are aware of it. Like I said, there's so many chameleons in Madagascar that most people are only aware of like a few different species from some of the larger parks, and so this one is certainly um, underrepresented.
mhm, mhm. No, that's perfect, and I think a perfect example of just how something so magnificent, if we don't know if we only know very little about that, that like the need for this day is fully justified, fully justified. And I guess, I hope throughout the episode we've kind of inspired people to kind of want to be involved, equip them with some of the knowledge of how to be involved, how they can learn more, what they can do. And you even mentioned there some of the social media handles if they do want to keep up to date. Is there anywhere else though you direct them of like if they want to keep up to date with kind of either chameleon conservation or Wildlife Madagascar's work or your work, where should people be going to kind of keep up to date with those things?
Well, for our work, you can find Wildlife Madagascar on on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and perhaps in the future other social media channels. And for general chameleon conservation, certainly follow the IUCN Chameleon Specialist Group. They have a Facebook page, and I'm sure that they have other social media handles as well. But they regularly post about new research and new findings, quite frequently, and so that's definitely the handle or the group to follow.
Perfect, perfect. And I'll put, as I said multiple times, everything will be in the description if people want to go and do all of those things. And while they're down there, a shocking piece of self promotion that the podcast social media will be down there too. And this week we will be posting exclusively chameleon based things all over the place to raise as much awareness and love as we can for these incredible, 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 beautiful creatures. So yeah, you can find us at Pangolin Podcast on everything. And you can subscribe to the podcast, leave us a nice review wherever you're listening, and share with your friends. If you want them to learn about chameleons, you can share this episode with them. You could go back to this time last year, scroll down the feed. I can't remember the exact name of the episode. I think it might just be International Chameleon Day, or the first ever international, something like that is there. Go listen to that one as well. Share that with your friends because yeah, so many amazing things that like it's impossible to cover in an hour all of the amazing things that are going on in the world of chameleons. And with all of that said, I guess the final thing to say is, of course, a huge thank you to the listeners for celebrating chameleons with us, for listening, and for, yeah, hopefully sharing their love of chameleons with the world this International Chameleon Day. And of course, a huge thank you to you, Tim, for coming back on the show, for talking about all of the work that's gone on, some of your favorite creatures, some of your favorite chameleons. And yeah, thank you so much for being here and all of the incredible work that you guys are doing over at Wildlife Madagascar.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Perfect. And yeah, on that note, thank you everyone again for listening. And yeah, until next time, happy International Chameleon Day and goodbye.